question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. Third reading. Inland Revenue Amendment, Profits Tax Concessions for Insurance-Related Businesses, Bill 2019. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. President, I move that the Inland Revenue Amendment, Profits Tax Concessions for Insurance-Related Businesses, Bill 2019 be read the third time and do pass. I now propose a question to you that the Inland Revenue Amendment, Profits Tax Concessions for Insurance-Related Businesses, Bill 2019 be read the third time and do pass. Dr. Fernando Chang. President, I am speaking to explain why I am against the Profits Tax Concessions for Insurance-Related Businesses Bill. Any profits tax concessions would apply to various companies, and for the sake of the bill, we are looking at insurance companies. With the bill enacted, they would not need to pay the original profits tax rate. If we offer these tax concessions, is our economy going to benefit? I have my doubts. I have no confidence at all. In the second reading debate, I pointed out that according to discussions among the sector, reinsurance and captive insurance businesses do not necessarily need the tax relief. Under our business operating environment and under the context of the national security law and in light of the serious conflicts in our society, are we able to reverse the situation by offering a 50% tax concession? Is this going to help the sector? And would the tax concession bring about greater economic benefits? I do not believe that's the case. In the second reading debate, I talked about the confrontation at the South China Sea. 2 days ago, the United States issued a statement. The State Department, and rather the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, pointed out that the activities of China in the South China Sea, including military activities or acts of occupation, were illegal. Dr. Fernando Chang, please come back to the debate. I am attempting to illustrate why I am against the third reading of the bill. The logic is that the profits tax concessions aim to benefit maritime insurance businesses and to facilitate relevant activities or businesses. At the same time, at the South China Sea, we are seeing potential conflicts of a large scale. And I want to say that the two are in conflicts of each other. Given the confrontation, Hong Kong would not become a maritime insurance hub. Why would companies want to take out maritime insurance in Hong Kong? South China Sea is a main corridor between Western Europe and Asia, and given the serious confrontations in the area, the U.S. has deemed activities of China illegal in the South China Sea, and they deemed that the 2012 judgment at the Hague Court claimed that China could not assume the so-called sovereignty in the South China Sea. It was a serious statement, and it laid the basis for possible military conflict in the future. If there is indeed military conflict, we would not be talking about maritime insurance anymore. Given the serious threats, it would be a joke to talk about tax concessions. Under the context of the national security law, we face a substantial challenge. For insurance and reinsurance businesses, including captive insurance, while captive insurance covers military-related insurance and includes some risks of a war and political risks. In assessing such risks, they would have to collate relevant information. They would have to be up to date with the information, and they would have to collect intelligence. Article 29 of the National Security Law states that for foreign corporations, personnel stealing state secrets or intelligence, or asking foreign organizations in the boundary to implement. I remind you to come back to the debate. Dr. Fernando Chang, I remind you to come back to the debate. You have digressed. President, I'm simply explaining the logic. There is no need to repeatedly explain yourself. I did not repeat myself. Please indicate whether you support the third reading of the bill. The insurance business or industry must assess their risks, and to do that, they must collect intelligence. With the national security law, whether these people are in foreign places, the mainland or Hong Kong, would the collection of intelligence be related to state-related intelligence? This is a tough call. For those engaging in maritime insurance business, would they have to gauge the risk of a war in the South China Sea? If it is necessary, would they have to collect information or intelligence in Hong Kong or elsewhere? And if that's the case, they would have to determine the premium to be charged or the level of risk they face. This is something they must carry out. As they engage in such businesses, would they inadvertently break the law? What is meant by a state secret? What is involved when you talk about national security? It's hard to draw the line. The power of interpretation lies with the National People's Congress. If there is dispute at the court on whether a case involves national security, who would make a decision? According to the law, the chief executive would make the decision. So there is high uncertainty. If you operate a business, would you be willing to invest in Hong Kong to set up headquarters or conduct reinsurance or captive insurance businesses if the risks are impossible to gauge? Well, according to the national security law, the statement by the chief executive has a binding effect on the court. In other words, it's not up to the court to decide whether a case involves national security. So the collection of intelligence relating to the South China Sea, would this involve national security? It is a very difficult call. President, you are a businessman. I'm sure you would understand what I mean. This is very simple logic. Under the threat of the national security law, there are precedents we could refer to. We do not know how the national security law would be enforced in Hong Kong, but on the mainland, look at Xinjiang. Dr. Fernando Chang, I remind you to come back to the third reading debate. You have digressed. President, I have not digressed. We are facing a very realistic risk. If these companies are to assess such risks in Hong Kong, then they themselves would be at risk. If they do not assess the risks faced by their businesses, their personal risks, the regional political risks, as well as the risks faced by their businesses, why would they decide to conduct business here? So such concerns are well grounded. Under the context of the national security law, providing tax concessions cannot turn Hong Kong into an insurance hub. This is the so-called clear and present danger. The danger is obvious and it is right in front of us. The national security law has been enacted, but we are unsure about how it would be enforced. Everyone is assessing the situation now. With the passage of the bill, will companies rush to Hong Kong simply because of the profit tax concessions? If I'm the owner of a company, I would wait and see. The risk is that they might lose all. The key is to assess the calculable risks. That would be key for businesses. They need to know their risks with a certain level of certainty. Why would businesses want to choose Hong Kong instead of Singapore, of Dubai, or even London? I think this exercise is a waste of valuable resources. With the exception of mainland companies who might all the connections and that they have a say with Hong Kong SAR government. But if this exercise is designed to attract foreign businesses, I think it is futile. What are the companies you are actually appealing to? These resources should be invested in Hong Kong instead. The resources should be invested in our vulnerable groups. This is a waste of Hong Kong's resources. In the name of attracting business or creating employment, but you are not achieving any results. You would forego the taxes that would have been paid by businesses operating in Hong Kong. Under the national security law and the military tensions in the South China Sea, I don't think the bill is timely or appropriate, and the resources invested would be wasted. Thank you.
Honorable Kenneth Leung. As for the Internal Revenue Amendment Profit Tax Concession for insurance-related business, and at the third reading stage, I support a third reading. I share the same concern with Dr. Chang. Well, I have a different considerations for my concern. If you look at the national security law and also the trade and in the logical confrontation on geopolitics between China and the U.S., well, if the implementation mechanism of the HKSL would able to uphold the two international conventions and will also offer some exemptions, for example, for the press, or some kind of commercial behavior will be exempted. Well, In the rivalry of the two superpowers, Hong Kong may stand a sliver of a chance. I don't know when will the window of opportunity will open. It very much depends if the Central People's Government would able to implement the measures that are beneficial to Hong Kong. And during the CSA, I also mentioned the adverse impact of the national security law. Well, I still don't know how do we tackle the problems of foreign insurers leaving Hong Kong, even though we're yet to see this from happening. As for the issue of talent drain, I hope the administration should actively look into this and offer an effective response. As for the maritime risk in the South China Sea, my position is different. If there's no risk in this world, then we don't need insurance. And the higher the risk, the insurance sector will get more developed. They're probably unorthodox thinking. When looking at the insurance document, we need to look at the exemptions provisions first. Well, 99% of the insurance documents, for example, the maritime insurance, offer the exemptions. Well, in case of war or terrorist activities, they will not offer any compensation. If this kind of risk is uninsurable, if some insurance company were able to offer coverage, well, that could be a sizable business opportunity with this. And speaking on the bill, that even if this bill is passed, I'm worried that it will not be of immediate benefit. While it's still better than without such mechanism for tax relief. Well, after some bills have been passed, the results might be immediate. Maybe in 2 years' time, the secretary could come to the Financial Affairs panel to brief us of this after granting the such tax relief. That what is the taxation income from the insurance sector, and how you would comparison with 2 years from now. As I mentioned in my last section, we can offer a more detailed analysis to this council, so for us to effectively gauge for any potential further amendments or introduce new measures to allow the insurance sector to perform better. Just now I touched on the maritime insurance. I don't think that our marine trade will affected by the arrival of any military confrontation. However, the risk will be heightened when each country will need the trade of goods. Well, however, due to this marine confrontation or conflict, that would lead to the risk of transporting these goods to increase. So how do we manage or mitigate such risk? So we take out maritime insurance. So what kind of risk do we cover? Terrorist activity would it get covered on the accidental explosion or war? For option, Somali pirate activities is not covered by maritime insurance. Well, in this landscape, should we just only offer a war risk coverage? Nobody can really pinpoint the accurate risk of a war risk, and how do we offer coverage? Well, some kind of insurance better than none. Well, in view of other adverse factors, together with those of other pandemics, were not excessive or downplayed. Well, I see that this bill to enhance our competitiveness is still better than none. That besides this amendment bill, the administration have two other insurance-related bills that, well, hopefully by tomorrow that we start the scrutiny on this. For all three bills to be passed, our fundamentals will stand above our other Asian rivals. Well, at the bottom, at the end of the day, well, how would the national security such our fears? We have to wait out to see how we play in the next few months and how it was on the actual impact of the NSL to our business environment. Well, President, I will not take up too much time of our colleagues. I stated my grounds for support for this bill. Well, Hong Kong is facing lots of different risks. However, we do need this an amendment bill. Any members would like to speak? Secretary, would you like to respond?
And I put the question to you as stated. Will those in favour please raise their hands? Mr. Kenneth Jones claims the division. The bell will ring for 5 minutes. Will members please proceed to vote? Will members please check their votes? If there are no queries, voting shall now stop and the result will be displayed. Members present 49, 41 for, 7 against. The question is agreed by majority of members present. I declare the motion passed. Inland Revenue Amendment Profits Tax Concessions for Insurance-Related Businesses Bill 2019. Government Bill. This Council resumes the second reading debate